Welcome everybody to our first video importer spotlight. I'm here with Nicholas Mucci of
Hello.
Mucci Imports. Nick and I have been working together for at least 5 years now, and he's a huge, important part of our store. And we thought it would be a great time to have a couple questions with you. Are you game?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Awesome. So what are parts of Italy's that consumers or customers that should be paying attention to that they're not paying attention to right now?
Well, this is probably a good answer for you, Aaron, because you were with me there last year. And I think you knew when you asked this question. But I'm going to say Campania first and foremost for a couple reasons. I'd say primarily, really, because you have a lot of history here. First of all, you have grapes like Falanghina and Aglianico and Fiano that have been produced since the Roman times, really, at the end of the day. And you have production zones like the Falerno, which we were at last year, that, arguably that was like the original Grand Cru wine of the ancient Roman Empire and maybe therefore the world, right? So first off, you have this history in these grape varietals that have seemingly always existed there. And then you have really a great diversity of terroir, let's say. First off, we have a lot of volcanic soil, which gets folks like you and I always super excited, right?
Give you that minerality.
Right, exactly. And you have multiple volcanic, whether they're live and sort of active sites like the Campi Flegrei or even Mount Vesuvius, which is in theory still sort of active, right? So those are active volcanic terroir. And then you have the Rocca Monfina, which is a dormant volcano that's in sort of northern Campania, on the border with Lazio, really, that is all white volcanic ash. So that blew hundreds of thousands of years ago, right? But it obviously left behind that soil. So you have that region there. You have the Avellino as well, where arguably, to me, we were talking the other day, I think if they do a better job of marketing themselves, they could get, somewhere close to Etna and that kind of creating that sort of noise. Because as you saw with your own eyes, right, it's a beautiful area. You have a lot of elevation here, right? And you have these three grapes primarily, Fiano, Greco, and Aglianico, that all make exquisite wines from high elevation and, again, some volcanic soils, particularly when we get into the Aglianico. Lastly, I'd say you just have a lot of fun, newer, if you will, grape varietals like Palagrello that's going to be, that we also visited, is in your shop as well. That's a really fun varietal. It's fruity. It's got kind of some old world feel to it. You have Piedi Rosso, which is sort of along the same lines, maybe a little bit lighter, but a nice pizza red wine. So you have these up-and-coming grape varietals, which is happening all over Italy. I think what's different in Campania is there's a lot of younger producers really focusing on these varietals, and I think they have great potential, both, again, more as simple styles and also more complex styles of wine. So you have just this tremendous mix, and we're really just scratching the surface on what's making it here as far as being imported. Even the varietals that we're starting to see, right? Like Palagrello just exists maybe in my book, and maybe that's it, right? So we're just starting to get there, but there's so much potential and so much excitement.
It was interesting to me how diverse, the climates were just 100 miles away, different soil types everywhere. So I'm really excited about Campania. And we'll keep having wines from Campania. Don't worry about that. So kind of the other fun thing is that we're both first-time parents. You have a baby daughter, I have a son. What's something that has happened in the last year or so that you just didn't expect to happen as a first-time parent?
Yeah, I think, I just kind of like how much entertainment they provide to you. Sort of like how funny Chiara is. Obviously, she doesn't quite know it, right?
Sure.
But just even from a young age, just the facial expressions, and she kind of likes to dance, and she has the Elaine Bennis sort of down, and she just does these head shakes. When you turn music on now, she starts just moving her head like this. I laugh every time. It cracks the grandparents up. It cracks everybody up. So I think just like, again, not on purpose, but just how hysterical she is, and I know, interacting with Devin too, same thing, right? So that's kind of, I had parents tell me that, right? But just these small moments, you wake up in the morning and she does something hysterical, and you're like, okay, it was worth getting up at 5 a.m. for this, right?
Well,
at the end of the day.
People tell you that, but I think you're absolutely right. Until you have your own kid, that's when it's really funny. Yeah. You're like, oh, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. There's this little human that's trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I have Devin will sometimes right before bedtime just go crazy and start dancing to Bhangra music and like slapping himself, and It's nuts.
They're
really.
right. I mean, they're an absolute right. And it's really, I think that's been the most fun. You're really, it's hard work, but there's so many moments of just pure hilarity at the end of the day.
Gotcha. How hard has it been for you to not travel to Italy and not check in with them, and how are you checking in with them?
Yeah, I mean, from a personal level, it's very painful, right? And even from just being around these folks so frequently, right? And going back to Italy multiple times a year, that's a sort of sad, right? And definitely a challenge because we pick grapes with them every year, right? We're there in the spring when the new wines come out, right? So there really is a hands-on approach that I think makes the difference for folks like myself to really bring the best to the market at the end of the day. We've really improved our FaceTime and WhatsApp skills, if you will. So a lot of these people truthfully are almost closer than some of my friends here at home, right? I'm talking to many of my producers every week, right? Or they're sending me stupid memes, or we're talking about soccer, or we're talking about, whatever's going on here. So there's a lot of communication to begin with. So we've just upped our game a little bit and maybe added a video element. A lot of my guys feel bad that I'm not there right now, so they'll call me in the vineyard and say, here's where we are with the grapes, here's what's going on. So it's fun to check in. I think on both sides of it, we're both missing that connection and that ability to be together, particularly with our daughter coming into the fold, if you will. A lot of people really wanting to meet her and knowing that she possibly would have been in Italy this summer. So there's a lot of broken hearts, if you will, on both sides. But we've done a really, I think, a good job of just, and even, you needed it, right? In the middle of this thing in March and April,
you need some...
particularly somebody that really understands what you do and is working for you, in theory, on a daily basis like we are, it's fun to talk to those people and kind of encourage each other, maybe cheer each other up and say, look, and Italians have a good way of doing that, right? So, it's all going to be, it's all going to be okay at the end of the day.
That's awesome. Big thing that we work with you is some of the awesome white varietals. I think that a lot of people unfortunately think of Italian white wine as Pinot Grigio.
Yeah.
And I don't even know if you have a Pinot Grigio in your book. Nope.
Negative.
Well, there we go. That's probably why I don't carry it. So what are some great Pinot Grigio alternatives that people should be looking for that are in your book?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's an interesting question because I feel like at least the traditional sense of Pinot Grigio, right? These wines have been so rounded out particularly for the American consumer, right? So when we think about Italian white wines, I think what frightens a lot of people is the acidity, right? I remember doing tasting, particularly when I started my business at retail shops 7 years ago, and you'd meet these folks that, I don't really like Italian whites because there's too much acidity, right? And of course, we think about them in a sense with food, right? We're talking about mozzarella di bufala and Falanghina, right? And that acidity really playing off each other. So, if you're really looking for that style, for example, we tasted a great Pinot Bianco the other day from Alto Adige. I think that's a really nice, round, kind of supple wine that's really fresh, right? Same with Friulano. I don't carry it, but it's a wine I always loved drinking when I was living in Italy, right? Friulano, it's fresh, it's really drinkable, it's round, right? Same goes for Suave at the end of the day, right? Which is another one of those wines that maybe when we like Pinot Grigio 20 years ago had this bad reputation because it was dominated and in some sense still is by larger houses. But now we're seeing this revolution of smaller, mom and pop producers that are really making very interesting expressions of Suave. And same idea here. What I love about Suave wines is they're really, they please all palates in the sense that they're not too much acidity, not too much fruit. So they're really, they can at a dinner party, you're easily going to keep people and your guests happy at the end of the day. So those are two wines that I would probably reach for. Again, if we are willing to deal with a little bit more acidity, I like Falanghina a lot. There's a reason why, all the ragazzi in Italy drink that wine. They take it to the beach, right? All my friends when I lived in Rome were like, let's get a bottle of Falanghina and let's go do something, right?
Yeah.
It felt like this ubiquitous wine that, it's so easy to pick up. And it has that reputation because, again, they're usually very drinkable. They're made right near the ocean side, right? So there's a sense of freshness. To me, there's something really charming about those styles of Italian white wines that are very simple, right? They're not going for complexity, but at the end of the day, you just get a great glass of wine, and you're going to go for another glass and probably finish the bottle. But at the end of the day, that's the objective, right?
Yeah. So I think I'm going to summarize for you. Drink Falanghina for sure.
Definitely, please.
And if your wine has too much acid, it just means you're not eating anything with it, so pick up some food.
Yeah.
Because that's an Italian
Even
thing.
some chips, right? I mean, it doesn't take much.
Anything.
It doesn't take much.
You need balance.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, too, in Italy, right? I mean, they're so afraid, if maybe I'll offend somebody by saying that, of getting drunk, right? If you go to a bar and you're ordering a glass of wine, even a Prosecco, you're getting potato chips and nuts, right? They're not going to leave you with an empty stomach.
No.
So that just gives you the idea of how they see wine, right? Even in their daily, even if it's lunchtime, right? They're going to give you something to eat with it, or an aperitivo, right? I mean, in Naples, for example, right? You have your huge Sunday lunch. But I remember my very good friend of mine, Giovanni, we'd go home with him on the weekends, and we'd have this great Sunday lunch with his whole family. And, at 11 o'clock, he'd say, let's get an aperitivo. And I'm saying, Giovanni, aren't we about to eat, this huge meal? Because an aperitivo in Naples, in that area, means like a buffet of food.
Right.
So, you're getting a glass at 11 a.m., but again, at the very least, they're giving you potato chips, and they say, here's the buffet, right? So help yourself before a huge lunch like that. So there's always food involved when we're talking about wine in Italy, and that's so important to understand. Again, even if it's just munching, that goes a long way to making maybe these wines more palatable if you are a little bit fearful of that acidity at the end of the day.
So don't be upset with Governor Baker's new order to have food with wine. He's just trying to be European.
Yeah, exactly.
We can't go there. He's trying to bring it to us. It's fine. Great.